One more thing I wanted to add about the idea folio. Once you have your idea and you've really thought through what personal devices might look like within your future career or job place, um, you then have the option of how you want to represent that in your idea folio. So you could take that idea and you could retell it in a narrative story as if it had already happened and talk about the successes and the process you went through to get to the students to where you wanted them to be. You could take that same idea and do a digital story where you are talking to the camera, much like I am now, and then incorporating other content so that you can really showcase what your idea would be. And the third option with the same idea would be to do a screencast of a presentation. So you might put together a Prezi or a PowerPoint of some kind of presentation, and then present it on your computer, narrate it as you go using Jing or another screencasting software, and then put that into your idea folio. But the idea really doesn't change from how you want to represent it in your idea folio. It should be the same type of content, whether it's shared as if had already happened with a narrated story, or if it's just presented through a digital story or through a screencast. So one thing that you want to include within any of those is a sample student artifact. And when we talk about that, it's as if you are pretending to be one of your students and you create an example of what you would want them to create through the idea that you are presenting. This really helps you get to a level of specificity that we're really looking for. We want to see that you're thinking about exactly what you would want your students to do or your learners to do. So if with personal devices that you're having every student, because they each have their own laptop and every student's going to create a PowerPoint off of this content, then the way you would show that is you would create one PowerPoint and put it into your presentation as an example of what the students would do. Or if not the PowerPoint sample, you could create the template that you would give your students as the empty document, and they would add in the picture of this and the text that explains this. So it could be a template. Sometimes you might have the technology being used for a process tool. So if you are going to have your students use their personal devices to Skype with an expert, there's really no way you can demonstrate that, but you could have a Google Doc that would be the questions you would want your students to ask their expert, or the way you would want them to document their conversation or what they're learning about the person they're having the Skype conversation with. So if it can't be an exact model of what you're asking your students to create, then it can at least be some kind of scaffolding that would help the students get to creating that example. One of those two things needs to be included, and if it's in the narrated story, like my example that I have on the website, the sample website, it could be a link to a document. If you're creating it in your narrated presentation, then it could be a link that you open on your computer and then you continue your screencast and just incorporate it. Same thing with your digital story. If it doesn't fit within one of those two mediums, it could be linked on your idea folio below your video, but it needs to be present. There's got to be an example of your student artifact along with your idea. So we had a couple questions about exactly how that student artifact, that sample learner artifact is supposed to be represented, and hopefully that clears that up. So anyway, looking forward to your work this week.